Sales is it's not rocket science. It's numbers. Get attached to the no's, actually, because the faster you get more no's, the quicker you're going to get to a yes.
No, 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 no. And a lot of time that happens when people try to sell something to someone that they don't need. If you have to convince them to buy something they don't need or don't want, I don't know if you're an actual professional salesperson.
If I've got to convince you to buy, you're probably not going to be a great customer.
You know, you can make a whole lot of money and just go waste it on yourself if that's what you want to do. But those are the individuals that I see that ultimately end up succeeding at a high level for a season, and then they fall off.
Yeah.
Because then they start resting on the previous success. Mm-hmm. Quitting is not an option. You got to go all in. You're like, today, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to stop until it happens. You know, and if you can adopt that I will conquer mindset, I think you're just going to be wildly successful. Welcome to the Will Podcast. I am Will, and our mission here is to share with you wisdom, inspiration, leadership, and legacy. And today is going to be a little bit different. I have the head of our roofing division here at DeVore Capital Contracting, Wes Deason, with me today. And we are going to dive into sales, what makes a salesperson tick, what makes a salesperson fail, and why here at DeVore Capital, one of our key mottos for 2025 is sell and drive. And we are in a very capitalistic society. We buy and sell everything from everyone, and most people are like, well, I'm not in sales. Well, you're inside of an organization that is. You know, some organizations like Coca-Cola don't necessarily need a lot of people going around knocking door to door to sell their product, but they still sell. You know, they sell with their marketing, they sell with their advertising, and we see a lot of people that come through the door all the time that, you know, hey, I want to sell, and we want to help them sell. We want to drive them to sell. But sometimes, some people, something just doesn't click. So we're just going to get into the whole thing today. So
Awesome.
So first off, how did you become Wes Deason?
Oh, well, you know, I was born. No, yeah. So, you know, I never really considered myself that I was in sales. It's just something that naturally, as I started an entrepreneur journey when I was really young, you know, I somewhere around 13, 14, you know, I was the typical kid that, you know, got the paper route through papers and was always doing something. And even at a young age, had my dad build me a stencil set, and I got some white and black paint, and I used to go door knocking down my neighborhood in the summer, and I'd paint new fresh numbers for everybody's house on the curbs, you know, in Colorado where I grew up. And I was, you know, so somewhere along the line at a very early age, you know, I kind of got into the entrepreneurial journey, started selling, didn't even know exactly what I was doing. It was just something that was fun and I could do it. And then later realized that, no matter what, you're always selling. Even when somebody tells me, oh, I'm not a salesperson, I'm like, you're a great salesperson because you're selling me right now on why you can't sell. Mm-hmm. So, and why you're not a salesperson, right? So, you know, it was just something, I guess it came natural, you know, to where I never had a fear technically of talking to people or, you know, asking them for business, which is very key, right? And it was just something that just seemed like that's what you do. You go out and you hustle and you find ways to make money. You're selling bubble gum or whatever the heck it is, right? So yeah, and then here it is, you know, 50 plus years later, you know, giving away my age, but you know, still feeling like, you know, that's what we do every day is sell, and there's you know, whether it's selling a vision to a new recruit salesperson or selling a product, you know. There's, you know, sales comes in all different forms and packages, you know, but it's always selling.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things, you know, especially here at DeVore, we believe that we have products and services to bring value to our clients, to our friends, to our neighbors, to our community. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of struggle with is they don't believe in what they have the opportunity to sell, you know, and there are some instances where people are involved in different things, different organizations where like it's shady, right? You know, years ago, and I don't know if I've ever said this on camera, but I worked for an organization that was selling penny stocks, and I was really good at it. And then I got promoted to soliciting to people that were accredited investors to buy into a hedge fund. And after, I don't know, 5 or 6 months of doing that, I became aware that it was a scam. So I quit.
Right.
Right. I didn't know. Like, I thought it was legit. It looked legit, but I was good at it. But once I realized that it wasn't a legitimate organization doing legitimate things, I had to remove myself from it because it didn't align with my core values. Right. It didn't align with what I wanted to do with my life, and I couldn't take advantage of people. And so I immediately, I had a pipeline. I quit. And I called my pipeline from my personal number and said, hey, this is bad, bail out. But when you are inside of an organization where it does provide value, it doesn't take advantage, it doesn't, I believe personally that we have an opportunity and a responsibility to steward that well. I believe every day we do for the glory of God. And if we can please God and serve people, we're going to be wildly successful. This isn't a prosperity, doctrine, but it's just the way life works. If we can go out and serve people well by being knowledgeable of our product, putting forth the activity, and we know that we have things that people need, and not everybody needs what we need, but I believe that everybody knows someone that needs something
Absolutely.
That we have to offer. And it's hard to get new people to understand that we have something that people do need. And the more people that you can present the offer to help, the more successful you'll be.
Sure.
So what do you believe is that, through the interview process, through the onboarding, everybody's on fire. And then there's that, okay, now I need you to go knock a door.
Right.
Then that same energy, that same level, then that fear kicks in.
Right.
Is that just a fear of not having done it before? Is that they don't naturally, they're not brave when it comes to speaking? Like, what do you think the disconnect is?
I think, directly for what we do as far as roof sales and stuff like that, but even in general, I think, part of the issue is that a lot of people don't understand that whatever you're going to do, you need to go all, you need to go all in and do it. And whether it's roof sales or whatever, you've got to be dedicated to believe that you've got to put in that full-time hard effort to get it done, to make it happen. And where I see a lot of sales guys I've worked with at different companies, where even in our own business, where I've seen people have a disconnect or fail, if you will, is they do not equate activity to understanding what that produces on the other end. Mm-hmm. The sales, there's really no secret to sales. Like, yes, you need a good opportunity that has a good product. Obviously, an easier product to sell that people need is great. And if there's a big demand for it, that should make it easier, and so on and so forth. But in general, sales it's not rocket science. It's numbers. It's batting averages. If I bat 3 out of 300 in baseball, I'm hitting 3 out of 10. So my job is just to get up to bat 10 times because I know I'm going to get 3 hits. I could care less about the 7 times I'm out. Sure. A 300 batting average in an MLB, you're going to be making millions of dollars, right? So, that was Babe Ruth's secret. He struck out more than anybody in the history of baseball, but he also hit more home runs, right? And so he understood, I just want to get to the plate. I'm swinging. He never got walked. He struck out, right? Mm-hmm. But he could care less about how many times he struck out. And I think that's where salespeople have a hard time is that they get attached to the strikeout, but they think they're failing. There's a great book called Go for No, and it's real small, easy read, right? And basically, it just teaches you that you get attached to the no's, actually, because the faster you get more no's, the quicker you're going to get to a yes. Mm-hmm. It's just numbers. Right. I could be the best sales guy in the world. I could have the best pitch at the door. I'm not going to sell every deal I talk to somebody. It's just not going to happen. Right. So if I know the averages and then I know if I'm getting better because I'm hitting my, the standard averages that we know how to play, it's just, you need repetition. And I tell salespeople all the time, and this is the other hard part is that they don't launch their business. They come and they go to work and they just think it's just a mundane activity day to day when, if kind of using the space shuttle as a reference, 90% of the fuel it uses is just to get off the launching pad.
Right.
And once it's gone, it takes very little effort for it to do its traveling and its journey. And salespeople need to think of their journey the same way, as put all of the effort into the beginning. Go ballistic in the beginning. Put in all the effort. Hit if you're door knocking, hit 1 million doors. Just go after it, and it will become so much easier down the road because you've launched and you built a pipeline and it's full. Rather than 6 months from now, your pipeline's not very full, and now you're frustrated,
right.
And you're finding every excuse, every reason why now it doesn't work when it actually worked.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of like a twofold. It's that fear of rejection and that fear of failure, but the reality is the greatest salespeople to have ever walked this planet, in your analogy, like they fail a lot, right?
They fail fast.
They fail a lot. They fail fast. They fail frequently. They are rejected all of the time. But the reward when you win is great. And, sales, professional sales is in by far and will always be the greatest income opportunity from a career standpoint.
Absolutely.
Professional sales, no matter what it is, whether it's construction services, whether it's real estate, if it's medical devices. I mean, I knew a guy 10, 15 years ago. He was in medical device sales, and he was making $250,000 a year. And it looked like he never worked.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But it was, I'm like, wow, dude, like, how do you do that? And I just show up. It was so simple. I just show up, and he was like, man, and he was an Army Ranger, and he had gotten out of the military, and he started in sales. And he's like, dude, this is way easier than getting shot at.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You're just asking me to show, like, I'm not going to get injured. I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not going to be away from my family for years at a time. I just show up and offer my ability to help. And I've been blessed tremendously for it. And we can look at it the same way here. I almost think that we've had a few months now since we kind of put forth that sell and drive. I think it should actually be drive and sell.
Yeah, right.
Because it's the kind of the holding the hand of a new salesperson to get them through. Like, listen, they're not going to bite you. They might yell at you, but that doesn't affect who you are as an individual. It's just an opportunity. Now
Yeah.
right? You can't help them. So move on to the next one. And the faster you can recover from that rejection, and then the more, I always say, the more numb you get to it.
Yeah. I mean, a salesperson that is not as talented compared to somebody that's talented, we talk about this a lot. This salesman A, he might be able to close, 8 out of 10 deals when the other one can only close 3 out of 10. But the person that closes 3 out of 10 can outpace the great sales guy because he can still do more activity.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter necessarily, I say it doesn't matter your skill level. Definitely skill level helps, and you should practice and get better and learn your better skill level. Repetition will automatically help you get there.
Yep.
But if you're doing something enough repeatedly, the right way anyway, right? But still a salesperson that maybe isn't quite as talented, fresh, new compared to the seasoned vet can go crush that seasoned vet in activity, and it's going to make his business just the same and make just as much money. Yeah, he might have to work a little harder.
Right.
But what kind of reward are you looking for, right? That's the thing that's I've always loved about sales is I never wanted an opportunity that was going to cap me, and I've left companies because I was capped.
Right.
It's just like, no, if I want to go work harder and make more money, why are you stopping me from doing that? Why can't I make more money? No, that sucks. I want to move on. Like, let's go. Right. And so when you have an uncapped opportunity, then somebody can go put in more activity and win, and they might have to work a little harder, but I want the bigger payoff too. Right. I want the reward, and there's not a lot of businesses that you can do that. Basically, I can decide to give myself a raise today if I just go put in more effort than I did yesterday.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
And sell another deal.
Yeah. I am Will with DCRE, DeVore Capital Real Estate. We want to help you with your buying and selling real estate transactions. We know in the economy and the market that we have today, everybody is telling you that it is impossible to buy or to sell. We know that we can get the deal done. Give us a call at 844-4DeVore or hit the link below. Have a great day. Instead of a 5-day week, I decided to put in a 6-day week.
Right.
And I have the ability to create. Because I've had that conversations with previous people that I worked for. I'm paying you too much. So I'm making you too much, is what you're saying.
Right.
Right. I've made you so much money, you can't spend it. Right. No, it's that greed factor. Right. So once you learn how to sell, and it really doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't matter the product.
Not at all. Not a bit. Not for the most part.
But if you're new, if you're disciplined and coachable, I will take a disciplined, coachable human being over a talented human being any day of the week.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just be disciplined and be coachable. And it's especially when you're in an environment where you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just do what we're telling you to do.
Yeah.
Right. We went from a $0 company to a multi-million-dollar company because of this.
Yeah, we got a roadmap. We got
right.
Yeah.
Here's the map. Just try it, and then you'll get better.
Absolutely.
You'll speak more clearly. Your pitch will be better. You'll have more product knowledge. And I've seen so many salespeople, new guys, right? They get that, telephone sales, we call it call reluctance, right? You can call it knock reluctance, right? I have to learn everything that I can learn about the products, the service, the specs, so I can smart you to death,
right?
To get to the yes, right? Nobody, can I help you?
Yeah,
right. Like nobody cares that you know the exact dimensions of a roofing shingle, right?
I call it baffling them with brilliance, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to baffle them with a talking so much because I sound so smart that you're going to buy. And I also tell salespeople that I refer to it as you'll talk your way out of it. You'll talk so much, right? You'll talk you can talk somebody out of a sale. You don't need to know everything. You're exactly right, and it all boils down to knowing enough. But I don't. If I've got to convince you to buy, you're probably not going to be a great customer. I'm going to have issues with you somewhere along the line because I had to convince you so hard to get the opportunity that I'm providing, and probably the opportunity was much more simple. I just made it more difficult, and then I had to convince you. If you can't understand what I've got, and it doesn't work for you, you're just another, I hate to say it, but you're just another number. I got to move on.
Right.
I'm not, I don't have to sell you. Right. And sometimes I think we fall into that trap. I know I've done it where, man, I just baffled him with some brilliance and I got it and I convinced him. And then he became the worst client, at the end of the day, because now I'm having to convince him to do everything that I need him to do. Right.
I was watching, and I'm probably going to butcher it. I was watching a Myron Golden video on YouTube a couple weeks ago. And I think the title was Why You Can't Sell or Why People Can't Sell. And it's the need to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I don't, I fail.
Yeah.
I don't. I want to help you. I want to be able to provide a service for you. But you're right. If I have to fight 75 no's to get you to the yes, and I did sales training a long time ago, and that was part of it. Is no, 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 and then you get to the yes. But I don't know if the environment in which we work in today is kind of that same philosophy, is because the normal, you go to the car dealership, hey, can I help you? No, I'm just looking, right? You have that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some of that barriers that you have to overcome. I've just knocked on your door. You weren't expecting me. I'm intruding on your personal space.
Yeah, right.
I have to be able to show, value and the ability to serve you very quickly, or you're going to say no, right? So I need to be able to handle rebuttals and handle that rejection and come like, no, I understand, Wes. You were just eating your cheeseburger and I messed that up. I'm sorry. I'm in the neighborhood for whatever reason. I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want to do. I just want to take 10 minutes and you can stay in the air conditioning and I'm going to go up top.
Right.
There is some of that, but like you said, it's the no. And a lot of time that happens when people try to sell something to someone that they don't need. If you have to convince them to buy something they don't need or don't want, I don't know if you're an actual professional salesperson or you're, strong arm, hustler.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right,
Because it's like, do you need it? Yes. Okay. Do you want it? Yes. Maybe not right now. Maybe later. Or do you not trust me enough to get it from me?
Right.
Right. And if the more I'm beating you down to get to, the more you don't trust me.
100%.
The more you don't trust me.
The that same video from Myron that you were talking about, I love that. I've watched it as well, and he's right on point. Seen it many times as far as you get attached to, I've got to close this deal.
Yeah.
Like that's and companies can make mistakes. I think in general, if you attach all the behavior of your income to one thing and one thing only,
Right.
like you don't get paid unless you close a deal, you run the risk of rewarding the wrong behavior. Because I know if I knock enough doors, I talk to enough people, I get on enough roofs, I find enough damage, somebody's gonna need my help, right? And if all I'm focused on is, you've got to need my help, then I'm missing all of the things that I do to even get to that point.
Right.
And where all of the key is in the very beginning, just talking to somebody, finding out if they have a need,
Right.
and if I do enough of those, enough spits out on the other end. Right. And so, it's even building a comp plan, we sales, from our position and, being in sales is one thing, but then building comp plans, running teams and stuff like that. We've changed comp plans even at our company several times, and we follow PBD. And so I feel like I'm in good company because that guy changes his comp plan like he changes underwear. Like it's changing all the time because he's always constantly working on what are the behaviors I'm trying to create, and I'm going to reward the right behaviors.
Right.
And if that's smiling and dialing, or if it's knocking a door, if it's inspecting a roof, whatever that right behavior is that I know if you do enough of that, you will win on this end, then drive the behavior towards the thing that's going to work and build your comp plan around that behavior.
Sure.
And you'll get a lot better results. And the salespeople, I think, would be happier too, because they're going to see that they can win, and not be frustrated because they didn't close the deal.
Right.
That's the nature of the beast. You're not going to close them all, even if you get to that point. But, you're right. You can't feel like a failure if you just didn't get it closed, but a lot of people do because they just don't have enough in the pipeline to where they can be like Myron and say, I don't have a personality in this thing. I don't have a emotion attached to whether you do business with me or not.
Right.
I'm just here to tell you how it works.
Yep.
And you're going to make a smart decision. I'll help you along the way.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because when you have when your reward is solely associated with the end result, right? And it's really that reward that ultimately will come if it can be associated with the activity that counts, which is usually that entry level. This is where it starts. It starts here. So if I can reward this to get to there, and it's the whole package, right? Ultimately, you will get to the reward that you want. But I know, and you don't believe me yet because you're the new guy, but I know that if you do enough of this, you're going to get there.
Absolutely.
So hyper focus on rewarding the essentials, and focusing on all of those things. And you gave a great coaching class last week, I believe it was, on attitude. Like I think it was great. I think it was encouraging for everybody that was here. But the attitude in which you approach your day is so vital to your success. Because if you walk in defeated, fearful, regretful, upset, mad, all of those things, people can read that. People can feel that, because we want, we talk about in creating content, right? Authenticity.
Right.
Be who you are. Don't be who you're not. So if you're a negative person and you're walking into each day like, okay, today I'm going to fail, you're absolutely 100% right.
You bet. You bet.
You absolutely will. That attitude and how do you take someone, I guess here's the question, how do you take someone that feels defeated, has a negative attitude, and drive them in a different direction away from that?
Yeah. We talk about, we love people that are teachable, trainable, and coachable, right? And anytime I do a Zoom call or a training class or talking to a new person, trying to, let them know about the company and seeing if they're the right fit, I always tell them the one thing I can't train you on is to have a good attitude. I can't train your personality, right? So attitude becomes so important because it is very hard to drive attitude. That's like probably the hardest thing ever, is to drive somebody's attitude. If it's not in the right place, if it's bad attitude, whatever it is, if they're just frustrated and upset. I mean, I can take you by the hand and show you how to do it, but I don't know that fixes your attitude, right? So, you ask a question that maybe I'd love to, get somebody else's take on it as far as how do you drive somebody with a poor attitude, because that's, man, that's tough to do.
Sure.
About the only thing that I ever kind of deal with in that situation is I try to be even more positive. I try to outlast their bad attitude with good attitude, because eventually, hopefully, my good attitude will rub off on them. I mean, it works in the opposite. So, when you're in a good mood and you show up in a room full of bad mood people and it's a negative attitude, it doesn't take very long, and you're like, oh man, this stinks, man. I'm, and you'll just go at it, and you don't even know why. It's just because everybody else is doing it. Right. So, you're the leader. It always starts with a great attitude from the leader, because your attitude will rub off on people, and if they come in a bad mood, I think that's the only really way to drive them is just to stay positive, encourage, put them in a room full of other people that are positive and stuff, and it'll rub, their day will have to get better.
Sure.
But it's tough sometimes in sales. You're by yourself.
Yeah.
You're out there on your island by yourself, and you got to go do it, and you're in a bad attitude. You got nobody to feed off of. That can be tough.
Yeah.
That can be tough. And, you have to find that, reset button. Mm-hmm. And, I rather if I know I'm just going to be in the worst mood all day, I'd rather just stay home and not even attempt to go sell something than to force my way through it and, lose a customer, piss somebody off, mm-hmm. and just make myself more mad because, I'm blowing the deal.
Yep.
Then just rather just stay home, get over it, and then come back tomorrow with a fresh attitude.
Well, what I tried to do is, so one for me personally is I would always try to remember the last win, right? Because sometimes that self-doubt gets in mm-hmm. rather quickly, and if I can remember the last win, then I know it's possible. I know it's doable, right? So what did I do to achieve the last win? Right? What was my mindset? What did I do? And for me, did I pray in the morning? Did I, make sure I, hugged and kissed my wife and kids before I left? Did I do my routine?
Right.
Right? Because my routine is the foundation of everything. And if I'm getting to bed when I need to, if I'm waking up when I need to, if I'm, did I eat a good breakfast, for those that eat breakfast, right? 'Cause you got options,
Get
right?
some sleep.
Yep. You can take care of yourself. And if you're not taking care of yourself, how are you going to be able to steward that opportunity inside of your business well?
Yeah. The energy needed.
And that's hard, and it's different for, you used to be a, nightclub owner guy. So you're 20 years later, your sleep schedule's still messed up.
Still screwed up. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
there is when I'm going into, what's my last win? Okay, cool. I can get the last win, and I think, and I'll counter, yes, salespeople are very much at times on an island by themselves because it's your performance. What you do is a direct result of what you will earn and the success that you will have. However, when you are in an environment where you have leaders that want to coach you, that want to help you, that want to you don't have to be isolated.
Right.
Right. So it's the, hey, Wes, I'm kind of having a crappy day. 30 no's, I'm going to go home and I'm going to start tomorrow. Right. And that's where the drive come. Dude, you're almost there.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You're more. We're not
just do one more.
Yeah.
One last call. I cannot tell you how many times a 7-8 hour day has just been felt so terribly unproductive. It's okay, but I didn't hit my goal.
Right.
All right. I need, boom. All right. So here's one more. Sometimes it was 10 more. Sometimes it was 50 more. Right. But just one more. Just one more. And then it hit. And I hit my goal. So now I succeeded.
Right.
Right. So it's that, okay, what's the activity for today? What's that schedule looked at? Live and die by the calendar. Right. I'm just when you remove quitting, right, from the vocabulary, I tell those people in marriages, just remove that word divorce from it. It's not an option.
It's just not there. Yeah.
Right. Quitting is not an option. You got to go all in. Today, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to stop until it happens. And if you can adopt that I will conquer mindset, I just think you're just going to be wildly successful. And it's when I'm getting ready to quit. Okay, who do I call?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who do I call that's going to give me that much needed kick in the pants so I can keep going?
Right.
Because I'm almost there.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
One day I'll write a book, and that's
Yeah.
what it's going to be. I'm almost there.
I'm almost there. Somebody kicked me in the pants. Yeah. No, one of our sales guys just the other day, he posted, we were on I was on a group chat where I was, having fun with that and celebrating successes and different stuff. And the day was getting late, and all of a sudden he gets a roof inspection, and he posts, I was, it was my last knock. I did one. I had to go get one more knock in, and then I got on that roof. And he said, "It's always the last one." Yeah, it is always the last one. Yeah, if you'll just know that you got to, continue to go after the success the right way, and if you haven't gotten it yet all day, that's okay. The numbers will take care of themselves. You just got to put the numbers in, right? And it's just it's always that last knock, that if you'll go in and just do that one more call, one more thing that you don't want to do, or just push through that one little level. 3 Feet from Gold, another great book, right? Everybody gets almost there, and the gold's on the other side, and you just stop picking because you're tired, and if you just busted through one more layer of rock, the gold's on the other side, right? So
and it goes back to the belief in the organization and believing in yourself. And that I was on a sales call Monday, and very quickly in the conversation with the homeowner, I could, I didn't have to, make it up. Like, she was very clear, and I just don't know who to trust. I don't know who to trust. I've spoken to this person and that person. Your company came recommended, and I want to trust you. And I said, well, if I do my job properly, you will. This is our process. This is how we're going to do it. And kind of hit some of those things. Like, we know how the industry works. Like, if somebody's told you this, know that that's illegal. If somebody's told you this, know that it's not accurate. If somebody has told you this, this is how it works. I'm going to do this. We're going to do this. And this should be the outcome. And anything other than that is not legit. And she's like, oh, because I hit all of the things that I know what the competition is saying. Yeah. They're saying all of the things that are not right. Right. And trying to force this lady into a situation that they benefit. Instead of, like, I'm here to serve you. Yeah. Am I going to get paid well on the other side of it? Yes, I am. But that is my reward for serving you well. Right? For being honest with you, for being a person and an organization of high integrity, of a high moral standard. That's what we want. We don't, we've had guys that were like really great at slinging used cars. Yeah. Buy here, pay here. Yep. Yeah. Really good. Just sign here. Yeah. And it's hate that. No, you're not a good fit. You're not a good fit to the culture, and that's a piece of, we talk about the attitude. Like, when if we hire from a place of, if we know, like, you got a bad attitude, you may have some talent, and that's why we can't compromise what we're looking for, because we have an opportunity that anyone can be successful in, but we don't have an opportunity that's available for everyone. That's right. Because you have to fit inside of this box, right? Are you going to be good for the team? Are you going to lift the team up? Are you going to be with, and that's where I love building out sales teams where people are able to encourage and equip each other to be better when there's no financial reward, right? When you have people that are willing to make each other better without that reward. The reward is, I get to see Wes doing better. Right? That's what you want. Yeah. That's the team you want. Yeah. I mean, I know what our obviously we have a great culture at the company, and I know what our philosophy is. Hard to live by sometimes, because, man, it's a road, it's a journey, right? You never get there 100%, but is help enough people get what they want, we win, right? So, if we've gotten to the point where we believe you're a good fit as a salesperson, you're coming on board with us, then you get all of me. Like, I don't half-ass it. The company doesn't just half do it. You get it all. We'll even go over and above, because we know if we can help you win, we get the cherry on top. Sure. You get the pie, but we get the cherry on top. And I'm just looking, we're always just looking for a winner, somebody that wants to go out and win, and help show them that there's a roadmap that's going to make them wildly successful income wise, and which,
but also, we train on we do a lot of personal development work here at the company, because we feel like that's something that helps people win as well.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why the buy here, pay here, just sign here sales guys, they can go write business. We got a ton of business from some of the sales guys that we've had, and we just had to part ways though, because we're not bringing value to the marketplace.
Yep.
We're just slinging roofs. We're just selling paper, and we don't sell on price. We sell on value.
Yeah.
And so when you send people out in the marketplace that understand the value of the company, and then it starts from the very beginning when they feel the value of being able to even work here, that the company has put a really great platform together, and we got systems, and we have the tools, and we got great coaching, and we got people that'll push you and drive you and help you and stuff like that. Then that can translate then into people going out and really feeling comfortable that I'm going to sell you a roof because you need it, not because you just. And nobody wakes up and just says, "I think I'll buy a roof today," right? So there's a need, you need it. I'm just gonna help walk you through it, and you're gonna find that if we're genuine and we believe in our own product because we've built such a good culture and we believe in value, then that the homeowner's gonna feel that. The person's gonna feel and understand that, man. I've had it so many times in my roofing career and sales where the homeowners, afterwards is like, man, nobody's ever sat down and shared all that with me. Thank you. And it's like, they don't, they just sign here, I'll get you a roof, whatever. And they appreciate the education. They appreciate the knowledge, even if they're ready to sign,
Sure.
I still give them that value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You have to make them aware of what they're getting. I think that's with any product, any service. And I think that starts with the individual making themselves better, because I don't care how many books you read, how many videos you watch. I think the core principles of almost all of them is what kind of value can you bring? Like how I'm just reading Napoleon Hill, Sell Yourself. It's an adaptation of his original work.
Think and Grow Rich.
Yep. And just in the simple things of how his drive to go out and present himself well so he can put himself in the right place, to have the right conversations, the right way to bring value, and it's like, it's not that hard.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's just really
it's
not
that hard. It's okay. I'm doing this so I can bring value to other people. I'm doing this so I can help other people. And then the reward is, I get to make a lot of money, and then I get to go help more people because I have the money to go do it.
Right.
And it's really not that hard. Or you can make a whole lot of money and just go waste it on yourself if that's what you want to do. But those are the individuals that I see that ultimately end up succeeding at a high level for a season, and then they fall off.
Yeah.
Because then they start resting on the previous success. Not remembering the last win.
Right.
But they rest on it. Right. It's like, I got you got the $2 million plaque or the, multi-million-dollar plaque in the office. You got a couple of them, but it's like, hey, look what I used to do.
Right.
I don't do nothing for you today.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's pretty to look at, but I need to go out and perform. I have to
Right.
consistently perform. Danny the roof guy, and local people probably know him. He's been around for 162 years. Like he's got all the plaques and he's got all the awards, and he's 70,
and he's still out hustling everybody.
He's
got a plan, and he goes.
This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do, and
yeah.
he hits it, and he has the discipline. He's coachable. He's, that's one thing. Like be open to, like you just said, changing the sales plan. Like be flexible, right? Things are going to change. It's usually for your benefit. It's always for the company benefit. But if we benefit, you benefit. If you benefit,
Absolutely.
we benefit. It is a mutually understood thing that we are here for each other, right? Because, Jason, our production manager, right? It doesn't matter how many we sell.
Right.
If he's not performing at his job at a high level, we don't ever install anything.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's like we all support each other here. We just onboarded a new a new member of the DCRE, DeVore Capital real estate team.
Awesome.
And when I was talking to him, he says in our initial interview, I think the question was, "What are you going to do for me?" And I smiled, and I said, "Everything you allow me to." And he looks at me with a puzzling look, and I said, "Here's the deal." I was like, "Everybody wants to be held accountable until they are held accountable."
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
So tell me, what's your goal? Where do you want to be? You know, do you want to get one of these $1 million plaques? Do you want to be a $2 million plaque holder? Where do you want to go? Okay, cool. We know that there's specific measurable activity that needs to be done on a consistent basis to get there. So if you're telling me that's your goal, then I will drive you to that goal. But the moment you start to give me pushback, then now I know you're not coachable.
Right.
You're not trainable.
Right.
Right. So do you really want that?
Hope you're enjoying the content. I want to invite you to check out the Free Factor podcast hosted by myself, Scott DeVore, aka Free. I sit down with entrepreneurs, entertainers, musicians, all types of people who are bringing value and education and mindset. So check out the Free Factor podcast at the link below.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, from a management style, I've adapted and tried to learn and become better. And I was taught a long time ago that, my management style should be very simple. It's just, you tell me what you want to accomplish and I'll just hold you accountable to it. The minute that you're not being accountable to it, I'm going to just do one of two things: ask you if you're serious,
Right,
or tell you to change your goal because your activity is not driving where you told me you wanted to go.
Right.
And at that point, then it's pretty simple. I don't have to call you every minute and go, "Where are you? What are you doing?" Right. If you want to make 100 grand and you're on pace for 30, I'm just going to be like, either change your goal or change your activity.
Yeah.
But don't and giving me fluff doesn't do anything for me. I want you to win. I want you to get to 100. But if you only want to be a 50 player, then I'll help you get to 50 if it benefits us both mutually. If it doesn't benefit us both mutually, then
then we might have to part ways.
We might have to part ways.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We might have to part ways
because it's just not going to fit right. But
Yeah.
But you tell me what you want to do, and I'll show you how to get there, and then just check on you and see if that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because
we want, and I know this, and we know this, like we want every one of our roofing sales professionals to be at 120K a year, like a minimum. Right.
Minimum.
That's where we want. So if you're doing the activity to get to 50 or 60, you're actually a drain on resources and time.
Absolutely.
Because I'm going to give you all. I don't know how to give you half. Right. I don't.
You don't get half.
I can't give you half. So if we see it happening, we know it should happen with you. Like, do your part. I'm going to do my part, right? Because if you're not performing at that level, if you're not earning at that level,
right,
then there's something that you're not doing,
right.
Maybe it's something that we have accidentally, we've missed. In order to sell, you got to talk to people. Maybe I didn't tell you that, right? Because that's the only that's the only way that I think you can grow is to allow yourself to be held accountable. And I talk about accountability a lot in a couple of different environments, but it really is all the same. We talk about the old AA and the sponsor-sponsee environment, right? Like that conversation is kind of rooted around a specific behavior, which is typically a negative behavior, right? I'm drinking too much and it's causing a negative impact on my life. Hold me accountable to that. Those relationships are more often than not one question: are you still sober? Okay, right. Not a whole lot of growth there, not a lot of relationship building in there, right? But the accountability is attached to the negative. So when we flip that around and we attach it, okay, what are the positive things in your life that you want me to hold you accountable for, right? Are you reading the personal development books? Are you are you making the calls? Are you making the knocks? Are you doing all of the things that are important? You've told me that it is important for you to go out and, help feed some homeless people once a month. Okay. Did you do that? Well, no, I didn't.
Right.
Right. So it's not important to you.
So it's not important. Yeah.
Right. So you want to make $100,000 a year, but you're on track for 20. Okay. So that's not important for you. Right. Because not everybody is money motivated.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Even some people that would claim to be salespeople are not money motivated. So it's not necessarily the dollar figure that motivates them. Sometimes it's what they can do with it, you know, and I would hope that everybody goes out and earns a whole bunch of money, and it will be a tremendous blessing to people in need, you know, but if you say that helping folks is important to you, but you're not helping anybody.
But you're not helping anybody,
you know, and it's kind of like once I earn it, then I'll do it. You're not doing it now.
Right.
You're not going to do it later, you know. And that's why I love that entry level conversation. Like, tell me about your last week. What did you do? Right. Well, I watched 37 hours of Netflix, and I do this and I do that. Okay,
Right.
so you're currently not working anywhere? No. Okay.
You said the key earlier. Your calendar. You know, another mentor of mine, which we'll share it another day on another story. Sure. She got me into network marketing. She always wanted me to be in network marketing. Thought I'd do great at it, and I always avoided it. And then one day I decided I was going to get. And she's like, "Hallelujah, you!" But then she said, "But if you want my help, you have to be coachable and trainable." And I'm thinking, you've asked me to do this forever. Now you're slamming the door on me, right? But she did the best thing ever. But she taught me that something that very key was anytime that you're talking to a salesperson and they're telling you how great they are and on and on and on and on, show me your calendar. What calendar? You're not successful. You're not selling. Oh no, I'm great. Okay, show me your calendar. You open it up, it's blank. You know, if you're a successful salesperson, their calendar has tons of stuff in it.
Right, you're building relationships. Yeah, you're building relationships.
It's busy.
You're setting meetings.
It's busy. It's got appointments. It's got people to talk to. It's filled in. You don't have a calendar, you are not in sales.
Yep.
Period.
Yep. You know, that's the putting yourself in the right room to meet the right people that you can bring value to. That, you know, again, like real estate, right? I'd say most people that know me know that I have a license, that I can help them buy and sell real estate. But I don't call them up every 17 minutes and say, "Hey, I would love, if you're looking, if you choose somebody down the road, I'm probably going to be a little sad," right? But it's, how do I bring value, right? How do I bring value into those rooms? You know, you take, we mentioned Danny earlier, right? He's at 4 or 5 networking events every single week of his life, bringing value to that group, right? And he has a different level of value than I do because he's been on the planet 30 years longer. But you bring value into every room you're in, you know, and not just try to extract.
Right.
Because if you're only extracting, people know that, they feel it, they can how can I help? How can I help?
Right.
How can I help? How can I help? What did he tell me? He shows up to somebody else's networking event like an hour early every week to help that guy set up.
Yeah.
He's bringing value.
Yeah.
You know, he's bringing value. So every lead that guy gets is going to Danny.
Yeah.
Because he set up chairs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, it's like, how do you bring value? How do you bring value? And get out of your own way sometimes. You know, and like the old kind of thought process where, you know, salespeople were, you know, greedy, crooked, this, that, and the other. And you have that, but you have that in every industry and
absolutely.
There's greedy chefs, you know, like there is, but it's, if you can focus on the you and get out of your own way, and okay, this is the commitment that I've made to myself, my God, my family, my organization, to go and put forth the effort to achieve my goals. All right, cool. And I'm going to slip. I'm going to get lazy on Wednesday. Somebody's going to call me and they're going to put a foot up my butt, you know, and get me going. It's, you know, it's excuses.
Yeah.
We'll end on the excuses. I just did a video not too long ago. It was one of my best performing in the last 30 days or so. It was like, stop making excuses.
Yep. You can make money or you can make excuses, but you can't make both.
Yep.
Right?
You know, you can't, because it doesn't work.
That's right.
Because that's all we hear is when you said you were going to do these 5 things. Okay, you didn't do any of them. Tell me why you didn't do them. Right. Well, because it rained on this day and it did this. No, the reason is because you're not serious about hitting your goal.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason.
Absolutely.
You know, the rest of it are just excuses. I don't want to hear it. You know, I forgot. I didn't remember. I didn't know. You just didn't try because it's not important. So why is it not important? Stop making excuses.
Right.
Get in the game and get to work and drive and sell. That's what
Drive and sell
drive and sell.
constantly.
Yep. Well, speaking of driving and selling, we need to turn these cameras off and get back to work.
Get back to driving
Get
and
back
selling.
to work. I do appreciate you
Yeah,
taking
awesome
the time.
Thanks. Appreciate
This
it.
has been fun. Any last words that you would like to kick out to the camera before we close?
No, I mean, just if whether you're a seasoned vet, somebody new in sales, there's just so much opportunity to get better.
Sure.
Maybe as a last thought is just that even though I've been in sales a long time, I'm constantly looking of how to get better. There's still so much I don't know. One of my sales guys today in our sales meeting this morning brought up something I'd never heard before as an idea, and I was like, man, that's killer. I'm gonna say it 3 times that way. It's mine. I'm gonna steal it. But so and it's just something he doesn't know a whole lot, but he's I tried this and I thought it worked, and I'm like, man, that sounds really cool. I never thought of that. So there's always so many cool things to learn. Sales is so much fun. I think that's really the key is have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you have fun. Sales is simple. May not be easy,
Sure.
but it's simple.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And thank you for watching this episode of the Will Podcast. Our hope is that we have been able to share with you some wisdom, inspiration, leadership, and legacy so you can continue to walk in his will. And as the sponsor of this video, DeVore Capital, DCRE Real Estate, if you are in the Northeast Florida area and you need help with your roof, a construction project, or buying or selling a home, we would love to help you with that. Give us a call, drop a message in the comments. We'll see you soon. Be blessed.